So we're talking about taking profit, when to sell your crypto. I am here with one of my favorite YouTubers, Rob from Digital Asset News. Welcome, Rob. It's so great to have you here today.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Rob is actually one of the upcoming speakers at our Conscious Crypto event, and actually one of my favorite big picture thinkers in really understanding what's going on overall in the crypto markets. He's also like-minded to me that when you're investing in crypto, it's important to have a nice progression in terms of how you make your decisions. You know, if you're new to this industry, it's always a good idea to start with just setting up a HODL portfolio, hold on for dear life, right? Buy your crypto and hold on for dear life. And then graduate into things like spot trading, which you might do a few big trades a few times a year, moving into, you know, higher risk but higher reward types of trading only once you have that good foundation under you, right? So today we are just going to do a bit of an exercise in talking about how do you make those decisions on when to sell your Bitcoin, when to sell your crypto, when to take profit. And if you're finding this content useful, don't forget to go over to Rob's channel, Digital Asset News, and give that a like. Link for that is down below. And don't forget to hit the like button on this video, hit the subscribe, click the notification bell and select all, because this is a tutorial channel and we are really committed for you learning what you need to learn to be a successful crypto investor. So Rob, where do you want to start?
Well, first I want to start by saying this, and that is that everybody's goals are different. For you watching this video right now, my goals are not your goals and your goals aren't mine, and they differ all across the whole spectrum. So if you're thinking to yourself, like, I got to do all these things because this is what it is, that's not true. Really just comes down to what you think you need at this particular moment. Some people have no problems just buying into a crypto project and holding it for a very long time, then going, you know what, I think it's time now. It's gone over, 1,000x or whatever it is. I'm going to take some profits out and buy my house, whatever. I didn't need it before. Other people are like, you know what? I need these profits now because I think there's a huge bear market coming. I want to have dry powder on the side to reinvest into other things because I can grow it even more so. So it all depends. And there's everything in between. So what I want to do is have Teresa on here and have her walk me through it as far as like to take profits and how that would look like, because you can do a couple different things. You can just go, well, okay, I bought Bitcoin at 55,000 and it went up to 56,000 or whatever, 1% or 2%. I'm going to take profits at this point. Or what I want Teresa to show us all is how she does that on like a trading view. Just take a look at little technicals, the most simple way that she can do it. So you can say, oh, you know what? The RSI is, it's super overbought. Maybe this is the time to get in. So Teresa, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show my, this is my trading view. Watch out. Look at that.
Okay.
Beautiful, right? Look at those
So we're
candles.
looking at Bitcoin, US dollar on the monthly candles right now. Beautiful. Because this is where we always want to start. Okay. And whenever you're making a decision about trading, you always want to start zoomed out and then zoom in terms of when is a good entry point to place the trade. Okay. But the first thing we want to notice is right now, we are considering this, that most traders believe we're still in the bull cycle, right? So we're still in what would be considered a bull run. And many traders define that as, are we above the EMA ribbon? So the first indicator you want to pay attention to on the monthly charts is the exponential moving average ribbon. So do you know how to pull up indicators on your trading view? Yeah, so you can even just pull up the EMA 8, that would do in this circumstance. But see, so here we're looking at exponential moving average ribbon, right? And you'll see in general, the monthly candles, and if we switched over to the weekly candles as well, are bouncing off and up from the EMA ribbon. So that's what defines, we're still in a fairly bullish pattern right now, okay? When those candles start crossing over the EMA ribbon, now we know we've gone bearish at the macro level, okay? And then your dominant trading strategy should be changing. There's also, dozens, if not hundreds of indicators that a lot of traders use to predict when we've hit the absolute top or when we've hit the absolute bottom. There's lots of debate on that in the industry. I certainly have my favorites. Yeah. For Bitcoin, one of the big ones is the Pi cycle top indicator, which you won't find on TradingView. You'll find that just by Googling it. It's on, I'm trying to remember the name of the website.
Looking at Bitcoin.
Thank you. I was trying to pull that off the top of my head. But this one, when these moving averages cross, this has historically been a very good indicator of when we're about to see a major market correction, right? And ironically, when it crossed last time, nobody believed it. Like, we just had a cross at the top when this big major market correction happened. And everybody was like, but wait a second, the bull run shouldn't be over. Why are these lines crossing? And it didn't matter. We saw this big correction. So for me, that says this is an indicator we should definitely be paying attention to. When these lines cross, you want to be taking profit and selling. So for me, as a macro level indicator, this is one of the most important and the biggest that I think most traders pay attention to if you're just choosing when your entry and exit points are, or if you're swing trading, doing these 3 or 4 trades a year that you just hold on to and make a lot of money, right?
Yeah, so Teresa, sorry to interrupt, but I covered this a couple of weeks ago, and people were saying, see, Rob, now that you're talking about the pi cycle top indicator, since it's here, then we're done. This is it. Yeah. We're done and it's over. I'm like, well, no, not specifically, because just because it happened, and it's only happened, I think, am I wrong here, 4 times?
Yeah.
2nd of April, 2013, roughly November 29th, 2013. So there was 2 in the same year.
Yep, 2 in the same year. And that's a good indicator.
And then the next one was December 17th, 2017. That was the 3rd one. The 4th one, was that April?
Yeah, exactly. So April was when we saw this big correction. Well, and the other thing you really want to think about with Bitcoin is historically, and let's just keep looking at this chart for a minute, because you'll see this shows these really nice four-year cycles we've been having with Bitcoin, right? But those 4-year cycles were being defined by the miner hash rate recapitulation that happens. That's basically, I don't want to go into a whole definition of what that is, but basically, when we get a halving of what the miners get for mining Bitcoin, and there is a major break in that cycle, that used to define shortly thereafter the bull run would start. But the miners used to be the dominant holders of Bitcoin. Like when we looked at all the Bitcoin in existence and who owned most of it, the miners owned the majority of Bitcoin in existence, and that's no longer the case. Now we have, thank you. That's beautiful. I appreciate you pulling up other charts, right? Now we have lots of wealthy people in the world buying and holding Bitcoin. We have lots of corporations now, starting with this philosophy of keeping 5% of their reserve capital in Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation. So now the miners are becoming one of the minor holders of Bitcoin. Like I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's 20 to 30%, somewhere in that range now is what the miners hold in Bitcoin. Okay. So I do believe that we will still see four-year cycles, but Willie Wu, who's one of the dominant analysts in the whole world of Bitcoin, often talks about we're probably more likely to just see a drunken wobble upward. So we're still going to see bull run upward, because Bitcoin has become the new gold. And more of the world's wealthy are starting to buy Bitcoin and just hang on to it, not ever selling it. They're borrowing against it instead of selling it. So I do think the bull run is still on. I still think we're going upward. The indications in the charts, we haven't pierced the EMA ribbon. And I just don't know whether we're going to see the kind of blow off tops that we've seen in previous cycles, where Bitcoin 100x or 10x or 50x over the course of those cycles. I do think we're going quite a ways upwards, though, before we peak out in this particular bull run. That would be my personal gut feeling on what's the most probable thing that's going to happen here.
Gotcha. So Teresa, just to backtrack. So we're looking at the 8 EMA, correct here? And we're going all the way back to July. Yeah. Like this is 2020. We're starting to zoom out a little bit. Yeah. But let's zoom in. Talk to me about that, about these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the 8 EMA.
Yeah. So when you start to see those candles really starting to pierce into the EMA ribbon, and then we see this where they cross down almost to the very bottom of it. Now we're in more of a bear cycle. right?
Okay.
And you trade differently when you're in that kind of market correction. But what we've seen over the life of Bitcoin, and what most people are saying is probably not ever going to change, is Bitcoin has always dominantly trended upward on the monthly candles, right? So generally we get not more than 6 green candles in a row, and then there's a couple of reds, but then we get a number of green candles again, right? So
Right.
there's nothing in the world of Bitcoin that would suggest that's going to change, right? Bitcoin is becoming the major asset for holding on to wealth, for hedging against inflation. Given the level of recession that's going on the planet right now, like every country in the world is overprinting money. The only reason we're not noticing is it's like every currency in the world is on an elevator hell, but they're all going down together, so nobody's noticing, right?
Yeah.
And that means that as a reserve store of wealth, normally gold would have 10x'd in a scenario like this, and that hasn't happened. People are not putting their money into gold. They're putting their money into Bitcoin and to other crypto assets, dominantly Bitcoin, but other crypto assets as well. So that, I think, bodes well for saying we're just going to see corrections with what is a dominant bull cycle upward that's going to keep generally going up over time.
Gotcha. So yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I'm just looking at this right here. This was around April. I think this was the Pi cycle top. Matter of fact.
Yes. Yeah.
Not mistaken.
Right there. Yeah.
That was 7th of April. And then we take a look here. Where are we at? 12th of April. So this was pretty much 5th. And then here was the wick at 65. So when you're saying like if we put on the ADMA, and I'm going to guess this is kind of might be a lagging indicator.
Yeah. EMA is more lagging than it is leading.
Sure.
But it confirms what else is going on in the market, right? There's other leading indicators we can use, but when we see a weekly candle that pierces that far into the EMA ribbon, you got to have your wits about you. Like, this is time to take profit and not be buying into crypto, right? Because there's probably more about to happen, which is what we saw play out there. So
yeah, because like I'm looking at this one, and I'm at this one 22 of March, and it wick down here, and it just touched it. Maybe you're like, nah, not so much. Then green, wick didn't touch. Red comes in. Kind of, and then this one right here. What is this?
Well, that first one, right? That first red one, if you look at the wick significantly pierced the EMA ribbon.
Oh, right? Yeah. Okay. I didn't see this.
Yeah. Because the wick went almost down to the second line in the EMA ribbon, right? So that was our first warning sign. Well, the Pi cycle indicator cross was the first warning sign. That was the second. Okay. Another really good indicator of what's happening as a lead indicator is the Ichimoku Cloud. So I don't know if you follow the Ichimoku Cloud. This is a more sophisticated indicator, but if you're doing anything more than hodling, this is a really good one to learn, because it is. I love Nicola Grace, who's my partner on the Conscious Crypto channel. Her common quote is, "Don't mess with the Ichimoku Cloud." Like, if the Ichimoku Cloud is saying it's going in one direction, right? So when we look. When we look, if you can turn off the EMA ribbon just so we can see the cloud really clearly, that would be really cool. Yeah, if you just take, I think if you hit the little I button, do you see where it says EMA on the left, listed down on your screen? Yeah. And then I
always get these little bit confused.
Either hit the I or hit the X. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So now we've got the EMA ribbons gone, right? And so Ichimoku Cloud has several different lines going on here, right? And the cloud is leading out into the future. And this is what we would call a bullish cloud. Like, anytime the cloud is green, the cloud's bullish, right? And then these two lines, what we would call the baseline and the conversion line, the blue and the red line. And then there's usually a lagging span, which I'm having trouble seeing on your charts. It's usually yellow, but for whatever reason, I'm not seeing it show up in your charts. It's probably there, and I'm just having trouble seeing it. But, in general, this is a bullish looking Ichimoku Cloud, right? It out into the future, it's staying green. If you flipped over to the weekly or the daily, though, we'd see a different Ichimoku Cloud, right? So, sorry, we're on the weekly, flip over to the daily. Now on the daily, the Ichimoku Cloud's flipping into the future. Okay.
Mhm.
And the lagging indicator here is in green. Sorry, it's just a lot of Ichimoku Clouds it lists in yellow, but that's no big deal. So the green line that's in the back, you always want to see that lagging indicator well above the price action if you are predicting the price to go up, right? And
Sure.
if it's running into resistance on the price action, that's a good time to just wait and see what happens, right? And often, like if you look at this Ichimoku cloud, often what happens is when the candles pierce into the cloud, they often bounce off the bottom of the cloud. Do you notice that that's what happened here in the last day? The candles have been bouncing off the bottom of the cloud, and then they clearly broke out of the cloud. And then as soon as they broke out of the cloud, in fact, as soon as it bounced off the bottom definitively, it rose to the top of the cloud quickly, bounced along the top of the cloud for a couple candles, and then once it broke out of the cloud, boom, up significantly, right? And we often see that with the Ichimoku cloud. Those boundaries of the clouds are often boundaries to the price action, right? And so it's not a bad idea to sort of just have a look what's happening on the Ichimoku cloud. Do you see out there in the future, though, the Ichimoku cloud is flipping red? Well, what that means is that there's bearish action potentially coming up in the future. Like, so we're anticipating correction coming up.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just going to flip over to my trading view. Okay.
Sure.
And here we go. So I think we were on the weekly. And we're looking at Bitcoin. So let me just pull up a Bitcoin chart on the weekly. And let me just turn some of my other indicators off so that you can see everything nicely here. Okay. So when you pull back out like this, let me just go to a different Bitcoin because I've got a lot of lines on this chart. You see here, if you drew a line this way, do you understand what I'm saying now? And in fact, that line, if you keep drawing it out this way, like the market has never dropped below that line. You see what I'm saying? So that can be considered a dominant market structure, right? So should the market break below that line, we are definitely moving back into bearish territory if we ever cross this line. You get what I'm saying? So that would be considered a major warning signal to a lot of people. Similarly, we have upward lines in the market. Like, so if you join these, now some of these are not so much lines I would trade, but lines I watch, right? So if it breaks this line here, we're also probably going to see a significant jump to the upside, right? So what tends to happen is the market often trades in these kind of triangles, and there's a lot of books on how to do analysis on this. Like you'll see here, the market was trading in sort of a downward wedge. Do you see that? It had a pattern.
You're
and
right.
As soon as it broke out of that wedge, boom, significant run up, right? And then we had another wedge over here, right? Trading downwards in this case, it was an outward broadening wedge, right? Actually, it's probably more like that, right? But when it broke out of this wedge, boom, significant run up, right? So we learn to watch these patterns. In fact, anyone who wants to get really savvy at understanding patterns in the market, this is the Bible written by Thomas Bulkowski. And he's got a whole website called the Pattern Site. And you can start to study these patterns. And they tend to have probabilities of which direction they're going to break in and which direction they're going, right? So we don't need to go into that level of detail. Just know if we break this line, we're going bearish. Like when you break a dominant market structure like this, that's something to pay attention to. We're probably going to get a significant market correction, okay? You see, in this case, there was a dominant market structure in this run up. Do you notice this line was not broken for quite some time? The market kept bouncing off this line. You see that? When it eventually did, we got a huge run down when it did break that line, which I know that doesn't look like much when we're looking at a really tiny chart like this.
Right.
But when it first broke that line was this first major correction. And then everyone went, well, maybe it's not so bad, but then it kept boom, right?
Yeah.
So we just want to pay attention to when these big market structures either get broken to the upside or the downside, because those usually precede significant runs up or significant runs down.
Yeah. And the thing is with like crypto, like that's the thing. So when we looked at that and we're looking at these breakdowns, because that's a huge breakdown when it goes from 56,000 to 50,000. And it seems
Yes.
like at that point, like some of the gains, some of those gains are big. I mean, some of those losses are big as opposed to when you could take it. So the thing I was wondering was like, I mean, we can take a look at that and go, well, we can wait for confirmation. Then it breaks down again. And you're like, well, I lost so much. But is there any other indicators besides the
overall market structure?
Ichimoku, the ADMA, and I guess maybe even the RSI. Anything else you look at as far as like leading indicators? For sure in the RSI, one of the biggest indicators that a correction's about to come, and I'm just going to pull up my trading view again here and share on my screen, is when we get divergences in the RSI. So this is something that more experienced crypto traders or crypto investors really watch for, right? And let me explain what a divergence is. See, you'll see this pattern in the price action, and then the relative strength index, the RSI, is making its own pattern, right? And often this pattern just mimics what's happening in the price action, right? But sometimes, and you'll notice here, we just broke out of a market structure, right? Like there was a smaller market structure here. You'll notice there was a line that was generally being respected in the market. Actually, the line was here. It broke out, retested this line, which previously was resistance, became support, and then we got a significant run up, right? So here we have, you'll notice the market is making different highs, right? And the RSI is also making highs. And then the market is making lows, and the RSI is making lows, right? So in this case, we have a higher high in the price and a higher high in the RSI. Do you see that here? The RSI is going up. But in this case, we have a higher low in the price. Do you see that? But at the same point in time in the RSI, we have a lower low. Okay. So all of a sudden, the lows in the price are in a different direction than the lows in the RSI. Okay. That's called a divergence. Okay. And if the divergence is in the highs, that is a bearish indicator. If the divergence is in the lows, that's a bullish indicator, right? So notice we got a big divergence here. Boom, price jumped, right? So this was a leading indicator that we were about to get a big jump up and not go back into the pattern. Right.
Right. So you want to be paying attention to things like that, because when we had that massive correction back in the spring, there was a major, not only did the pi cycle top indicator show that the lines crossed, and that's a major bearish indicator, we also had a major divergence on the RSI that was a bearish indicator. And a lot of people didn't want to believe it. They were like, no, we're in the bull run can't be over. And they were still placing longs. And a lot of people got wrecked because they didn't want to believe these indicators that were sitting here in the charts saying, no, this is the time to take profit, move some of your assets over. You can get back in later after the market corrects.
Awesome. Okay. Good stuff. Thank you.
Good stuff. Okay. So some clear indicators you can look at for when you know the market's going to be turning around, when you want to take profit. It's okay to move some of your money out of crypto and then back into crypto after the correction. A lot of us do that who do spot trading. We're going to be dealing with concepts like this and more at the Conscious Crypto event. So, and we know some of you have lost more than this in single investments. Invest in yourself. Come to this event. At the end of the 3 days, you will have a full understanding of the different types of crypto investment strategies you want to be considering. How to invest not only in Bitcoin, but in various altcoins. What are the top altcoin picks? What are some of the dominant things going on in our industry? And how to keep your money once you have it. Once you have your HODL portfolio, how do you set up your tax structures and set up your overall portfolio to pay less tax. We'll have tax experts coming in to talk to you about it. So we really look forward to having you as one of our speakers at the Conscious Crypto event, Rob. I'm so glad that you'll be joining us for that. And thanks so much for joining us here today.
All right. Thanks for having me.